Next, we have Patrick Congdon.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming this evening, and thanks to the Farm Bureau for the candidates forum this evening. I wanted to start off by clarifying something that is in my bio on the TUD website, and that is one of the reasons why I'm running, and that is based on comments I've received from friends, people I work with or have worked with in the community, people that are associated with some of my volunteer services in the community. And that is one where when I mentioned to them that I was going to run for a board position, their immediate response was, why would you even consider doing that? Don't you know that that's an agency that is going to go bankrupt? And I heard that from many people. It's, in their words, poorly run. And in essence, you're out of your mind for running for a board position. With that said, I'm here tonight, and I also see a number of other folks here that are interested in running for the board position. I do think that's very important to deal with. Water is incredibly important to all of us, and if you don't have a functioning board, general manager, and staff, then you're not going to be successful, and especially when you go out to the community and ask for things. My background, I spent 34 years in public service, and the majority of that was working for special districts. The last 10 years of my public service career was as a general manager for a park agency in Santa Clara County. And I think that given the difficulties that that agency had in determining how best to serve its community and how best to deal with some pretty significant lawsuits, it has enabled me to experience many things that I could foresee happening with an agency like TUD. And I think it's prepared me for the position as a board member, and I think that I could bring quite a bit to the TUD board. In working in that position, I had the privilege in some cases of being able to work with a lot of people associated with water purveyance in Santa Clara County, either the Santa Clara Valley Water District or the San Jose Water Company. And working on projects from the countywide habitat plan to working on a timber harvest plan with San Jose Water Company, working on mitigation management with the Water District. And one that I think that is dear to many people here in this county is recreational use of the canal system or the ditch system. We dealt with that primarily in South Santa Clara County, and the issues there are very similar here. And so I think I could bring a lot of background to that issue. The other two areas that I had addressed in my bio were agricultural and groundwater. And the agricultural was that I do have a small ranch. I'm not I'll call it a primary producer. I'm a secondary producer in that a gentleman in the area brings cattle onto my property, and I've secured some trust there to where he can go away and in 4 or 5 months come back and pick up his animals. And on my property, I do high-density rotational grazing. We use groundwater to water those animals, and we know what the costs are associated with that. Many of the producers in the South Tuolumne area, Tuolumne-Stanislaus area, are dealing with not just raw water issues, but groundwater issues. And this year, a number of producers had to sell off a significant number of animals to just make it through based on forage decreases in water. And as far as the groundwater issue, as you probably know, the governor did pass legislation that will start looking at groundwater basins, and the primary focus will be the valley areas. As we look back at water rights that weren't secured here at or in Tuolumne County, I also look at the importance of groundwater to this county and to not only producers but for private individuals, property owners. And I think it would be very important to stay ahead of what is coming down or what will be coming to this county in the form of restrictions or the form of measurements of ground use and extraction, and I think we need to stay on top of that.
All right, thank you very much, Patrick. Now we'll open it up to questions.
I will ask you the same
Sure.
question. How many TUD meetings have you attended in the past year?
I have physically attended one, and I am also one of those that likes to view the meetings online. Pardon? Well, they are entertaining, I'll put it that way.
Being as I have a little background in special districts, and you obviously have a special district background, can you tell us your vision of the Ralph M. Brown Act?
Well, I read the Union Democrat and have been following what's been the grand jury's report on TUD, also the previous report, and I have to say that in the years that I worked in special districts, we had to deal with some of those issues. I would also say that they're not uncommon. In fact, the attorney that worked for my agency was, we contracted that service out. We didn't have a in-house attorney, but he was an authority on the Brown Act. And so our board was held to a very high standard. And it's something, a board member has to take it as a major priority, follow the Brown Act, and has to understand that the public is number one, and the public needs to be involved in decision making. And just to make a comment about what a board member is, the board, you know, they're supposed to create a policy. They're supposed to see that that policy is adhered to. But even prior to that, they're supposed to get out into the community, talk to people about what their concerns are, bring those concerns back to the agency, and try to implement actions that can address those concerns.
Within the next couple of years, if say a 500-house development project is proposed, would you be willing to give a will serve from TUD to give water to it?
Based on what I know now, based on what I've seen, I am also, I have personal knowledge of a water system that TUD has taken over and the problems in taking over that system. I am not anti-development, but I don't think that the current system can support that large a development. And I also have to say that I think it's going to take away from some services that TUD is not providing in the way of water purveyance to those that need it, especially the agricultural producers that are going to be held at a higher standard, especially if you look at some of the proposals in the ditch sustainability report.
One of the previous candidates mentioned the high cost per employee. Would that be your number one point, to have the administration investigate and see where it can be cut? Because to me it seems outrageous, the disparity.
I'm going to answer it in a couple of ways. And one is, and as a former public employee, I would hope that the public, and I'm saying this because I've heard from some of the TUD employees, I've also heard from many people I deal with, that if you're going to address an issue related to employee salaries, please don't go after the employees. Just like any of us, if the employees had the opportunity to make more money, to get greater benefits, they're going to pursue those. They are union employees, so they're going to do that. It's really the job of the board of TUD to say yes or no to salary and benefit increases. To respond to your question, absolutely. Because one of the things that I've dealt with over the years, and this is not a large, I worked for an agency that had about 90 employees. And one of the difficulties I had as a general manager was employees that felt that they needed more people and they needed more equipment and they needed more control over projects that probably could have been better served by a private contractor. And this may go against what some of the TUD employees would like to do, but I think one of the things that has to be looked at is utilizing private contractors to perform many of the duties that field staff are doing now.
All right, great. Thank you very much, Patrick.